I thought I dropped my student ID in the library until I found another one with my face, my name, and an issue date from 10 years ago. I was a sophomore when it happened. It was late, around 11 p.m., and I'd been studying alone in the library. My eyes were burning, and I decided to call it a night. As I packed my bag, I noticed my student ID was missing from its lanyard. Annoyed, I retraced my steps through the dim aisles of books. That's when I saw it, lying on the floor near the end of the history section, my ID. I bent to pick it up but froze as soon as I saw the date stamped in the corner. Issued 2013. It was 2023. My stomach knotted. My name was the same, my student number identical, but the photo, that's what made my hands go clammy. The person in the picture was me. The same jawline, the same eyes, the same crooked smile, but the face wasn't mine now. It was older, a little thinner, with faint lines etched into the skin, eyes that looked hollow, tired. It looked like me a decade from now. I shoved it into my pocket and told myself it was a prank, someone messing with me, a fake. But the details were too perfect. The barcode, the font, even the scratches on the plastic were identical to my current card. I left the library with a weight in my chest, glancing over my shoulder at every sound. The campus was quiet, almost unnervingly so. When I got back to my dorm, I compared the cards side by side. They were exact copies, same number, same name. Only the photos and the issue dates were different. I barely slept that night. The next day, I went to the student records office. I handed the card to the woman at the desk and asked if she could check it. She scanned it, frowned, and typed something into her computer. Her brow furrowed. "This card is active," she said. "That's not possible," I told her. "I just got mine last year." She glanced at the screen, then back at me, her expression unsettled. "It says here this ID was issued to you 10 years ago. And according to our system, you graduated." My mouth went dry. I asked her to show me. She turned the monitor slightly, and there it was. My name listed as an alumnus, graduating class of 2017. A student file marked closed. But I hadn't graduated. I was standing there, alive, enrolled. When I demanded to know how that could be, she said, "Maybe it's a clerical error. I'll have IT look into it." But her voice shook, and she wouldn't make eye contact. That night, I couldn't stop staring at the photo on the old card. The more I looked, the more wrong it seemed. The smile wasn't really a smile, it was tight, strained. The eyes seemed almost aware of me, like they weren't just captured in a picture, but watching. The next day, I woke up to find the card wasn't where I'd left it. It was on my desk chair, face up. And in the photo, I swear the expression had changed. The faint smile was wider now. I told myself I was losing it. Stress, lack of sleep. I shoved the card into a drawer and tried to forget about it. But then people around campus started mentioning things. A friend swore he saw me walking into the science building, even though I was in the cafeteria at the time. Another classmate said I'd ignored her when she waved at me outside the gym, though I hadn't been near it all week. Someone who looked like me. Every time I asked what I had been wearing, the answer was the same. A faded hoodie with the university crest, the exact one I wore in the photo on the old ID. On Friday night, as I was leaving the library again, I saw him, me, across the quad standing beneath a lamp. Same hoodie, same face from the card. His posture was rigid, head tilted slightly. Even from a distance, I could feel his eyes on me. I froze. He didn't move. And then slowly, he smiled. The same tight, strained smile from the photo. I blinked, and he was gone. I ran back to my dorm, slammed the door, and yanked open the drawer where I'd hidden the card. It wasn't there. Instead, it was on my pillow. And in the photo, the smile stretched wider than before. Too wide. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if it's a prank, if I'm losing my mind, or if something else is wearing my face. But last night, I woke up to the sound of my desk drawer sliding open on its own. When I checked the card this morning, the photo was different again. Now it shows me lying in bed, eyes closed, mouth slightly open, just like I looked while sleeping last night. When I left work, my car was right where I parked it, but the office, the streets, and the city were gone. The lot was surrounded by dense forest that hadn't been there that morning. I worked the late shift at a small office park outside of town. Nothing glamorous, just accounting, spreadsheets, and the kind of soul-numbing fluorescent lights that make hours feel longer than they are. By the time I clocked out, the lot was nearly empty. My car was parked near the back, under one of the flickering lamps. It should have been an ordinary night. But when I stepped outside, something felt off. The air was too still. No distant hum of traffic from the highway. No glow of city lights bleeding into the horizon. Just silence. I looked around and froze. The office building was gone. The strip mall across the street, gone. The gas station at the corner, gone. In their place was forest. Thick, endless trees stretching up into the black sky, branches curling together to block out the stars. The parking lot was still there, cracked pavement, faint yellow lines, but it was an island of asphalt in the middle of wilderness. My chest tightened. This wasn't possible. I had been here every day for 2 years. There was no forest for miles. I pulled out my phone. No signal. The screen glowed uselessly in my palm. I told myself I was dreaming, exhausted. Maybe I'd fallen asleep at my desk. But when I tried the car door, the cold metal grounded me. I slipped inside, locked the doors, and started the engine. The headlights swept over the tree line, illuminating trunks so wide they looked ancient. I knew I had to drive. The lot's exit lane stretched toward the forest, but instead of a street, there was only a narrow path of broken asphalt leading between the trees. It was the only way out. I put the car in drive and eased forward. The forest swallowed me. The further I went, the less the road looked like a road at all. The painted lines disappeared. Branches scraped the roof. The pavement cracked and buckled until it was little more than dirt and stone. I gripped the wheel tighter, trying not to panic. The radio fizzled with static no matter what station I turned to. The GPS map on my dash spun endlessly, a blinking blue dot lost in nothing. Then, in the corner of my high beams, I saw something move. A figure. It darted between the trees, fast and low, too quick to identify. My heart leapt into my throat. I pressed the gas harder, desperate to get out. But the forest only seemed to thicken. The further I drove, the stranger it became. The trees weren't just trees anymore. They had carvings on them, crude shapes, spirals, and lines burned deep into the bark. Some looked like eyes, others like mouths, gaping wide. And then the smell hit me. Damp earth, yes, but beneath it, something rancid, like meat left out too long. I rolled the window up, my pulse thundering in my ears. That's when I noticed the scratches on my windshield, thin, jagged lines that hadn't been there before, as if something had dragged its nails across the glass. I slammed the brakes, chest heaving, headlights blazing into the dark. Nothing stood in front of me. Nothing moved. Only endless trees. But when I looked in the rearview mirror, my blood went cold. The parking lot was right behind me, perfectly intact. My office building, the glowing lamps, the empty spaces, like I'd never left at all. I turned, staring out the back window. But when I looked forward again, it was forest once more. The world was folding around me. I threw the car into reverse, flooring it, tires screeching across cracked pavement. The trees blurred past until the headlights illuminated the edge of the lot again. Relief surged through me until I realized it wasn't the same lot. Every car was still there, including mine. Same dent on the bumper, same cracked taillight, and sitting inside, hands gripping the wheel, was me. My own face, pale and terrified, staring back at me through the windshield. The headlights flickered. The engine died. And now I'm sitting here in the dark, too afraid to look up because I can hear footsteps circling the car. Not mine, not his, something else. I thought I was alone walking home that night, until I saw myself staring back at me from across the street. It was late, nearly 1 a.m., when I left the bar. I don't usually stay out that late, but a coworker had convinced me to grab a drink after a long week. The streets were quiet, the air crisp, the glow of the street lamps reflecting off wet pavement. My neighborhood was only a 10-minute walk from downtown, and I'd made the trip dozens of times without incident. But halfway home, I froze. Across the street, under the dull orange glow of a flickering lamp, someone stood perfectly still. And it was me. Same jacket, same messy hair, same tired eyes. Every detail matched. He wasn't just similar, he was identical. For a moment, I convinced myself it had to be a coincidence. Maybe someone who just looked like me. But then he smiled. Not a casual smile, not friendly. It was slow, deliberate, like he wanted me to know he recognized me too. My stomach twisted. Before I could react, he turned and walked into a small crowd leaving a nearby cafe. I darted forward, desperate to catch him, scanning every face. But he was gone. Completely gone, like he'd melted into the crowd. I walked the rest of the way home with my pulse hammering in my throat, every step echoing louder than it should have. That night, I barely slept. I replayed the moment in my head over and over again, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Maybe I was just overtired. But the next morning, I found something that made my blood run cold. On my kitchen table, where I'd tossed my keys the night before, sat a napkin. I hadn't brought one home. On it, scrawled in messy handwriting, were 3 words. "See you soon." I told myself it was a prank. Someone at the bar must have slipped it in my pocket. That had to be it. But the handwriting, it was mine. Over the next week, things only got stranger. At work, my boss mentioned she'd seen me downtown the day before, even though I hadn't left the office all day. A friend texted me, asking why I'd ignored him when he waved at me outside the subway station. I hadn't even been near the station. Everywhere I went, people started telling me they'd seen me somewhere else. And then, one night, I saw him again. I was walking back from the grocery store when I caught a glimpse of someone in the reflection of a shop window. It was me, but not quite. His face was a little too pale, his eyes a little too dark, and he was standing directly behind me. I spun around. No one was there. The reflection lingered for half a second before vanishing. By then, I was barely sleeping. Every creak of my apartment made me jump. Every shadow in the corner of my eye made me whip my head around. The worst was the night I came home and found my door unlocked. I know I'd locked it. I always do. Inside, everything looked normal, except the photo frame on my shelf, the picture of me and my parents. Only now, in the photo, there were 2 of me. One standing with my arm around my mom, and another in the background, smiling. That was 2 nights ago. Last night I woke to the sound of my own voice, whispering, coming from the kitchen. My body froze, every muscle locked tight. Slowly I crept out of bed, heart pounding, and peeked down the hall. The kitchen light was on, and there, sitting at my table, was me. He didn't move, didn't speak, just sat there, staring at the napkin I'd found a week earlier. When my breath caught in my throat, he looked up. Our eyes met, and he smiled, that same slow, deliberate smile from the street. The lights flickered once, and when they came back, the chair was empty. Now I can't tell if I'm losing my mind, or if something else is wearing my face, walking my streets, slipping into my life. But I know this much. Every night since, I've woken up to find the kitchen light on, and I'm terrified that one of these mornings when I walk out to check, he won't disappear this time. He'll be waiting,